Hi there, this is Faisal. I wanted to do a quick video on rules. And my question to you is, do you follow the rules of society blindly? I know I always say a quick video, but it ends up being a little bit longer. I have to do this shorter because I have a session right after this, a coaching session that I have to get to. But I can make this short because I want you to start thinking about it on your own, and then I'll expand on this subject as we move forward to future videos. So the question again is, do you follow the rules of society blindly? And this is something I'm becoming to be aware of more and more in my life personally. And it's something that it's been a journey for me for the past 15 years or so to try to understand what are some things that benefit us individually and as a collective, whether it's our community or family or also humanity in general. And what are some of the things that are harmful to us personally and collectively? And what are some things that we really need to let go of? So something I learned from Dr. Yuval Noah Harari, who wrote the book *Sapiens: A Brief History of Mankind*. It's pretty extensive. It says brief, but it's a pretty amazing book from the beginning of human existence, even before there were just one type of human species, to modern times. And he's done an amazing job. And one of the things that he really emphasized in that book was that human beings, interestingly, have two types of reality. One is the physical reality that we're faced with, and the other one is the imagined reality that we have. And that reality, we can call that, I think Eckhart Tolle called that reality the imagined reality, relative truth reality. So basically, that even though those ideas and concepts are true to us and it's real for us, but from a physical standpoint, it doesn't, a lot of them don't exist in reality, at least not in the way that we can detect and observe them through scientific means. So some of the examples might be the concept of God. We created it. Humans created the idea of God, the concept of God, and what it is. Whether there is a physical reality, we can't detect it physically through scientific means, but it is something that's very true to us as individuals and as collective human beings in different forms. The idea of money does not exist in reality. I mean, it exists in the form of paper, but the exchanges that we make, they are all imaginary. They're numbers that we put up on computers. Yeah, I mean, the number of physical money that's getting lower and lower. It's probably less than 3% now. But the idea of money itself is imaginary. It's a collective truth. We agreed upon it. The idea of corporations that we have, the idea of governments, the idea of nation states, borders, these are all relative truths or imagined truths that we have that help us organize systems and communities and our life in certain ways. Now, the positive thing with that is that we can transmit information from one generation to another very quickly, and we can add to existing knowledge, and we can keep each other together, safe, and progressing forward. The negative side of this is that we get impacted by this if those systems that we agreed upon to be real and true in the past, they no longer serve us. Some of those systems can be the way we look at life, the way we look at religion, the way we look at how to live our life, the way we perceive money, and how we acquire that, the way we think of success, the way we think of our relationships, the way we think of what makes us happy and fulfilled and purposeful. All those things, those are some of the things that are so outdated within a lot of societies that most people are following traditions from generations ago, from hundreds of years ago, or thousands of years ago, centuries ago, that did apply in the past based on those relative truths that we accepted as a society, but they stopped to apply and benefit us in the long term for individuals and for humanity as a collective or communities. So that's the big challenge here now. So why did I ask you this? Do you follow the rules of society blindly? Well, a lot of the rules that we follow, rules that we created for ourselves, those are imaginary. Those are agreed upon rules. Those are relative truths. We agreed upon as families, communities, societies, nation states, and empires to keep each other safe and to protect ourselves and to keep the system moving forward. Now, the challenge is that if we keep those rules, whether or not they apply anymore, they tend to have negative effects on our life. And so I'll give you the warning for this. When you begin to go towards questioning these rules and concepts and dogmas in your life, what ends up happening is that it's probably one of the most painful things that you're going to deal with. And that's something I always warn people about. But if you're watching this video, that means that you're ready at some level. And the other reason why I give this warning is that a lot of people in personal development and growth and spirituality and human development, they think that growth is positive, great, and amazing, and it is. The result of it is unbelievably amazing. You can completely transform your life, but the process, the beginning of the process, is extremely painful. And that's something we have to be aware of. But the pain of that growth that we deal with is not worse than the consistent pain that we live with every day, not being ourselves, not being who we truly are, not living the life that we want, not growing towards the things that we want, not creating the life that we want, not having the relationships that we truly want. And that's why that pain is important for growth, just like any other pain is important for growth. So now that I explained and I warned you about what it is, and this is something that I love this book that I'm reading right now by, let's see, what's his name? I have it in my library. Love this guy, Vishen Lakhiani, The Code of the Extraordinary Mind. He calls this whole concept the culture scape that we live within. Now, while personally, I believe that we need to question every aspect of our life to truly know what we want personally, if we are going to be self-aware, if we are going to direct our life in a positive direction, if we are going to truly create the life that we feel connected with and fulfilled with. But there are some general core ideas that apply to a lot of human beings that if we begin to question them, it tends to start a spiral towards questioning every aspect of our life, in fact. So some of those things can be, one, religion. By the way, the rules that we are following blindly, a lot of times we're born into those rules. So one of those rules is religion. So if every corner of the world, we have some major religions, 7 or 8, but we also have a lot of hundreds of thousands of religions that people follow. And now the challenge, the religious system in itself is an imagined truth. It's a relative truth. A group of people agreed that that's how we wanted to live our life, and that's what we wanted to believe. It's based on belief systems, frameworks, structures. Now, within those religions, there are things that are very beneficial to you. There are things that are extremely harmful because they don't necessarily apply in the present day, and they don't apply to your life right now. Now, the only way you know the difference between the two is if you start to question it. And that means studying the religion that you're part of. If you're born into something, that means you have not consciously accepted it as your own. And I always say this to myself. If I haven't questioned a belief, if I haven't thought about a belief, if I haven't studied it further, then it's not my belief. It's a belief given to me. So the first one we need to start to question is the religion we're born into. Second one, culture, which is connected to the religion a lot of times. And the third one I would say is how we approach our relationships, because a lot of what we know about relationship is through what our parents modeled for us, and our parents modeled their parents and their parents, so on and so forth, generation after generation. And what tends to happen is if a society or community is not going in a positive direction, they tend to be going in the negative. And a lot of those negative teachings get passed down within families and relationships and intimate relationships where we're not even aware of them. And we know this through a lot of studies, through counseling practices within relationships, and even in my own practice, I deal a lot with relationship as a coach. you find that most people's ideas of relationship and how they approach relationships is based on what they were taught, and it's a very subconscious process. So another thing we need to question is what is it that makes us happy? What is it that makes us feel fulfilled and purposeful in life? And that's very much connected to us. And a lot of the ideas related to them is a very commercialized idea of what life should be and what it is. And we just follow along with what it is. So most people that go towards creating the life that they want, their tendency to go is to go towards external things, to cling on to that would make them happy. But a lot of happiness, peace, and security and awareness comes from within. This doesn't mean that we shouldn't have external good things in our life, resources, money, cars, houses, whatever. All those things are great. But if your primary source of happiness and peace and all those things are external, then you're always going to be running. We're always going to be running towards something that will not fulfill that void. So what do we assign meaning to? We need to question that. And a lot of what we assign meaning to comes from our culture and religion and where we were brought up in. So that's another thing you can question and start to study more. Another area is what makes us successful. And a lot of that is associated with we must go to school. That's what will make us successful. This doesn't mean that we shouldn't go to school and study or anything against education, but the nature of education is changing a lot. Companies like Google and Apple, they're not even requiring degrees anymore as a way to get people's foot in the door. Why? Because they have recognized that beyond schooling, there's another level of education that a lot of people have gained on their own that can be much more valuable than formal schooling. So in fact, we're learning more and more through a lot of surveys that schooling is not even directly or indirectly associated, and it's being less and less associated with success in life. And that's external success as well as internal success. So I want you to think about these areas and really question them. One last thing I want to mention is that a lot of the beliefs that I talked about, the rules that I talked about within our life, they tend to get embedded in our system within the first 7 or 8 years, 6 to 8 years of our life. And those are the times, and Yuval Harari talked about how humans are a lot, in comparison to other animals, we're like molten glass. We can be shaped in so many different ways. That's why people can be Christians, Buddhists, Muslims, capitalists, and all sorts of other things, and they can be brought up in that system, and they can believe that that's a great system. And that's amazing for adapting to a system, but the challenge is that we're living in a global world where we're facing conflicting ideas and different ideas, and a lot of these ideas don't work together if we're not open to finding what connects them. So for us to be able to even question these things, we have to be aware that a lot of what we do is based on that 7 or 6 to 8 years of programming that we have within us. And that's when children are fully open to whatever they're taught in their environment. They don't have the ability to question it or look at it objectively. So as a conscious adult, it is our job to start to question those thoughts, beliefs, and things that we've gone through, and start to decide what applies to us and what doesn't, and what will serve us and our families and our communities in the future. So that becomes a very, very important thing. And that is not an easy thing to do, because that becomes a part of your subconscious system, which means below your consciousness, a lot of it we're not aware of. So we're going to have to become conscious of, why do we act a certain way? Why do I treat someone a certain way? Why do I act based on that? Why do I say that I believe in this? Why do I pledge my allegiance to this community, religion, or whatever? Why do I do the things that I do? And we consistently have to ask that question, think about it, contemplate, and act on the things that we really feel aligned with. None of this means that you have to leave your religion, culture, or whatever, but it may mean that for you. That would depend on your personal growth. For me, it will be very different than it is for you. That's why it's your journey, and I can only help you think about this and guide you towards that journey, whatever is for you. It is for you. So I hope this video helped. So your challenge is to really, if you want to go towards creating a better life for yourself, creating better relationships, being more self-aware in your life, feeling connected to who you are and to the nature of reality that we live in, then it begins with self-awareness, and that begins with questioning the rules that we've been taught in life. And some of the most amazing people in the history and even currently are the ones who started to question the rules. Some of the current examples are Elon Musk in entrepreneurship. He completely transformed the world, and it continues to transform the world with the technologies he develops, with the type of ideas that he's bringing into the world. If you don't relate to that, then people like Gandhi, people like Martin Luther King Jr., people like Muhammad, Jesus, Confucius, all these people were the kind of people who questioned the rules by which they were brought up, and they ended up transforming the world. Now, that doesn't have to be you, but if you want to be going on a path of growth, then it begins with questioning the rules that you were brought up with. I hope this was helpful to you. And if you had any questions, please let me know. If you had any topics that you wanted me to talk about, if you wanted to share an experience where you did question something within your world, within your thoughts and beliefs, and that helped you grow, please mention that below. And make sure you like and share this video, and share it with your friends and family that might benefit from this video. Until my next video, hope you have an amazing day. Bye.